Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. I'm Kéthévane Gorjestani. My guest today is one of the best rugby players in the world. He's won 2 World Cups with New Zealand. He's been named World Rugby Player of the Year 3 times. Dan Carter, thanks for joining us. We're going to start. It's been almost 1 year since you won the World Cup with the All Blacks. What does it feel like not being an All Black anymore after wearing that jersey for so many years?
Yeah, it's quite an unusual feeling, to be honest, because it was always a dream of mine to play for the All Blacks, and then I got the opportunity and I never wanted it to stop. But obviously that's very unrealistic to think that that's going to happen. So after the World Cup, I decided that that was the end, and I'd no longer play for the All Blacks. And the timing was perfect. I finished with helping the team win a second World Cup, which was brilliant. And all was happy until the first game of the following season for the All Blacks. I sat there and watched them do the haka, watched them sing the national anthem, and kind of got this funny feeling for about 5 minutes. But that soon went away, and I soon realised that the timing was right, and obviously really enjoying my next challenge, which is here in France.
Well, you weren't the only one to leave the All Blacks after that World Cup. There were some key figures leaving that team, and yet they seem as strong as they were before. How do you explain that there was no dip after that generation left?
Yeah, there was a lot of work and planning that had gone in, 3-4 years ago, and historically, international teams, they put so much focus on World Cups, and we did, the same. We really wanted to win back-to-back World Cups, but there was a contingency plan in there. We knew that a lot of players were going to be leaving after the World Cup, so 3-4 years ago we started to introduce a lot of the younger guys into the leadership group, gave them roles where they could grow as a player, where they could grow as leaders, so when that time came that some of the players were departing, they could just continue, and through the strengths of the coaching staff, the management team, they've just continued, if not just got better and better. So as a player that was in that group not so long ago, I always knew that that they would have a season like they have had this year, because there's a lot of sort of unseen work have gone on to make sure that the plans are in place for the time when players moved on.
Let's talk about your new life with Racing. You've had one season with them, one successful season. You won the top 14. How do you feel about living in France, playing in France?
You're really enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure and expectation that comes with playing for the All Blacks and living in New Zealand, because we're such a rugby-mad country. So to escape that to an extent, it's quite refreshing, quite nice. And obviously living in Paris, it's not a rugby-mad city, so you can definitely escape being a rugby player, which is nice. But also playing in the French competition, the new challenge. We've been coached by new coaches, playing with new teammates. It's been a real learning curve for me, but it's exactly what I needed in the stage of my career. And there's still a lot of expectation and pressure to make sure that the team performed and did well, but it was completely overwhelming to have a first season here of that calibre, where we sort of created history with sort of making the European final, for the first time, which was amazing, and obviously winning the top 14, which was a very special time for the team.
Well, you mentioned that European final. It's one of the only titles that you haven't won. Losing that final, is it extra motivation or is it extra pressure this year to not miss it this time around?
Oh, it's extra motivation for sure. Obviously it was pretty disappointing, but we didn't deserve to win. We weren't good enough, and it was a huge learning curve. I mean, Saracens were the best team in Europe last season, and they deserved to take out the title, and we got some great learnings from that experience. We were happy to achieve what we did in Europe, but at the same time it's always pretty disappointing to get so close, but to miss out in the final. So that'll add its motivation, and we'll learn a lot from that, but it's an extremely tough competition to play in, and anything can happen. So we'll be continuing to work hard and try and get ourselves into the playoffs, and obviously once you're there, then anything can happen.
You're 34 now. Some people watching you say that in the past couple of years you're in the best shape maybe that you've ever been in, or at least in the last few years. Have you adapted your style of play or your training, your preparation to your body today as opposed to when you were 20 years old?
Yes, quite a lot, and I get a bit of grief from my teammates because of that, because I'm not able to train as much as I used to when I was a young 20-year-old. So it takes a few more days to recover after a game. I have to be a lot smarter, with my training. I can't play a game and then go out running around training the following day, which is probably what I used to be able to do. So a lot more work on my rehab, recovery, in the ice baths, swimming pool, cryotherapy, all those little things as simple as stretching and yoga and stuff that I would have never done when I was a 21-year-old. So, my training week has changed a lot. I like to think it's a lot smarter now than it was, when I was younger, but that's just all about, developing and learning throughout my career.
Let's talk a little bit about this ongoing debate in rugby about eligibility for national teams. It comes back pretty much every year. There's this residency rule. If you play for 3 years in a country, you can be eligible for the national team. Do you think it's a good thing, or do you think, like some critics, that it is detrimental maybe to smaller nations to see all their best players leave for bigger, richer countries?
Yeah, it's pretty tough on, especially some of the, like the Pacific Island players that, shoot off and chase things. But I think the rules that they've got in place now are, they're fair. It's up to the individual and the player to make those decisions, and they can be extremely tough decisions to some players because that they have multiple options. But I think if you start getting players to committing to one country and then for some reason it doesn't work out, just having that stand down period, giving them another crack just doesn't seem fair. So it's a fine line, and you're never going to be able to please everyone. But the stance they've got at the moment, I think it's working.
Your contract with Racing is up in 2018, so this season and next season, and then that's it?
Well, I'm not too sure, to be honest. So the main reason for coming here is just to enjoy it and have fun, and this season I'm going to do exactly that and not think too much about the future. Obviously at the end of this season I'll have to start planning, post my final season. Exactly what that is, I'm not sure. My focus at the moment is just on the here and now and trying to enjoy myself and help racing be as successful as possible. And what the plans are, for the future, I'm not sure yet. But the body and mind is feeling good, and that's the most important thing.
Have you thought at all about what you want to do once you decide to stop playing rugby? Do you want to stay in rugby? Do you want to completely change?
Yeah, seriously, I'm asking that question to myself on a daily basis. I've got a few ideas in place, nothing set in stone of exactly what I'm going to do once I decide to hang up the boots. Hopefully that's not, obviously it's in the near future, but I've still got a lot of rugby to play yet over the next few seasons before I have to make that decision. But yeah, it's a tough one because my life has been so involved in rugby and I've learned so much that I'd love to be able to share my knowledge, and exactly in what terms that is, I don't know, but I'll just continue to play for as long as I can, and sort of make that decision of what I decide to do. Obviously it's going to be completely different to what I'm doing now as a player, and I think it's important that when I do decide to hang up the boots that I close that chapter of my life and move on to the next one, which is going to be extremely different, but really exciting in different ways.
And one final question. I'm sure there are more memories to be made in the next couple of years, but if you stop now and you look back at your career, what is the greatest moment as a rugby player for you in that span?
I think, there's a couple. It's really tough to pick out one, but that day in 2003 where my dream became a reality, you know, my childhood dream of playing for the All Blacks finally became real in 2003, my first test match for the All Blacks, and just receiving the jersey for the first time, doing the haka for the first time, playing in front of my country, playing for my country for the first time was just such a special moment, and I still remember that day like it was yesterday. It was an amazing feeling, and no one will ever be able to take that away from me.
Well, thank you very much, Dan Carter, for joining us and speaking to us. And thank you for watching this edition of The Interview. And we hope you'll be joining us again very soon on France 24.